Hello, hello. Thank you so much, you guys, for everyone who listened last week and for letting me go off on a personal tangent. I hope that it helps you feel less alone here at the start of this school year. I wanted to kind of get back on track here. For the last couple weeks, we've discussed confidence in lots of different facets. We talked about finding confidence in ourselves. We've talked about how we instill confidence in a loved one who might be struggling to feel confident. I wanted to attempt to take that a step further. I want to try to answer the question, how do I instill confidence in my children? I think as parents, this is always a major concern, right? This is always something I know for me that is in the back of my mind. You know, we're not going to be around forever. And the older they get, the more decisions they're going to be making on their own, the more actions they're going to be taking on their own for better or worse. And there's consequences to those choices. And you want them to be able to hold themselves up high, right? And, you know, to react and to do things confidently. Bump.com says this, quote, "Confidence is feeling sure of yourself and your decisions and abilities despite any risk. And according to research, people actually start to develop this sensibility at a young age. Learning to trust your own abilities starts as soon as babies begin to crawl or take their first steps. But real confidence presents closer to preschool age," explains Cindy Hovington, PhD and founder of Curious Neuron. She continues, "This is when the inner voice kicks in and can play a larger role when kids begin school." And I feel like that's just good food for thought. No matter what age your kids are, you know, I feel like the older they get, obviously, like if they're teenagers, that is something that teenagers struggle with. And it's very apparent, you know, that that's something that you need to work on. But even us moms that have younger kids, you know, who are in preschool or in grade school, it is still such a huge factor. So what does it look like? What does confidence in kids look like? According to Christina Furnaville, who is a child and family counselor, confidence in kids can show up in several ways, including, here we go, list time. Number 1, independence and wanting to accomplish tasks by themselves. This one always kills me. Mamas, you know what it is, right? I can't be the only one where the child is struggling to get their own clothes on. They want to help with dishes and they're making a huge mess of it. You know, like they want to do their own thing. That's a good thing. You got to see it as a good thing, as difficult as it can be. Number 2, they are able to easily join in on play dates or go off to school without looking back. This demonstrates a comfort in their skin and surroundings reflective of feeling confident. 3, mischievousness and not always listening to parents' requests. This screams my second child. I can't not help but think about my youngest. And so it goes on to say they believe in themselves and their own thoughts and opinions. So even when they might be a little bit cheeky, it's because they're confident. So in my research, I have found a study by Carol Dweck. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. She is a PhD psychologist at Stanford. And she goes on to explain the need for a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. She says, quote, "A growth mindset helps kids to understand they are always learning and growing. We show this with validation and encouragement. This helps kids to become more resilient and persistent in the face of challenge. A fixed mindset makes people believe they've done all they can do, and they tend to give up more easily. Having a growth mindset can help kids to be less afraid and to take risks and make mistakes, making them more confident in their abilities." I feel like I need that for myself too. Like reading that, I'm just like, that applies to all humans, right? But I love that she makes it so simple of what kids need. And this is an ongoing endeavor. There are a lot of peaks and valleys. We kind of talked about that last week, right? The parenthood is just the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. This is going to be a process. So what can we do to stay proactive at encouraging confident behavior? So I've kind of come up with a list, and some of these are just my own personal ramblings. And I've also pulled ideas from bump.com, on oursleeves.org, and parents.com. So if you want to go look these up, they have a ton of amazing resources. So here we go. Number 1, include children in household chores. Again, not the easiest thing to do, right? And it's got to be age appropriate, and it's, you got to be okay with them kind of making a mess of it and going at their own pace and kind of relinquishing some control. But this will help them become more self-sufficient. It'll strengthen that sense of independence and capableness. And just, again, make it age appropriate, and make it you can, especially if they're young, you can make it like a mimic game, right? That where they see what you do and they're able to mimic the action. 2, praise the effort and the process rather than the outcome. 3, let your child make mistakes and work through them together. 4, avoid being overprotective. Let them take reasonable risks. 5, be a role model, including changing self-talk, right? If you find yourself being a little down on yourself or complaining quite a bit, show them, say it out loud, like, okay, you know what? That's not what I should say. That's not the nicest thing I could be saying about myself right now. This is what I should be doing. It's okay to admit that you're having a hard time. That it's okay to admit that you've made a mistake. And it's even better if you can correct it in front of them and show them how that looks. Walk them through that process, right? 6, talk about feelings and help them to recognize them. 7, don't label your child. I feel like that is such a huge one, right? If they feel like the second we think we can't do something, right, then there's no possibility of it happening. So we need to not put that on them, right? Our voice is going to be their inner voice for quite some time. So we want to make sure it's a confident one. 8, identify positive things during the day as a family. So we've talked about that. That whole gratitude practice, that tell me something good. Make sure your kids see you doing that. Maybe even do it together as a family. 9, help them find their strengths and explore your child's interests. Now, this is something that I know can be difficult, especially if your children are young. I know, you do you. Do what is best for you and your family. I know some people are very I don't want to put my kids in too many classes and sports and things when they're young because I want to enjoy that time together. And while I understand that, I've gone the opposite way, honestly, with my kids. Because again, I'd rather them have every opportunity to explore an interest and see if it's something that will stick, right? Seeing if it's something that they want to continue and to learn more about. So, I mean, both my girls have started soccer in preschool. And Noelle, loving art as much as she does, did a cute little art commission and drew pictures for people over the summer to earn money. And she's first grade. So that gives you an idea. She's of the age, just help them to see what's possible. I think that it instills so much confidence when we allow them opportunities to do what they want to do, right? All right. 10. Let them make their own choices when possible. Again, not the easiest, but very doable, right? Even if it's us just giving them options. It doesn't necessarily have to be free for all the time, but you can always offer options. 12. Praise specific traits and, oh, I skipped one. I'm sorry. Number 11. Help them change the negative self-talk. So we've now changed it within ourselves, right? We have showcased how that works. If you see them having a hard time, being down on themselves, having a rough day, help walk them through that. Help them change that negative self-talk. 12. Praise specific traits and behaviors, which I absolutely love. I think, again, like we've talked about when we were originally talked about confidence, we talked about that, those physical attributes are so easy to compliment, right? With somebody's look or outfit, but take it a step further, right? Especially with kids, they might not recognize those good things within themselves. And I think the more that attention is drawn to the good, the more that they're going to seek it. And then last but not least, 13, celebrate differences. There is a song called Unique, and it's spelled U as in Y-O-U, unique. And it's sung by Quaver Ed. I highly recommend you go look it up on YouTube. It is actually my girls' school song. And it gets me every time. Because these kids, they'll sing it every assembly. And so I'm sitting in an assembly at the end of last school year, and they're straight up affirmations. These kids are singing, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm kind, and I'm unique. And I kid you not, I'm tearing up in the back of that auditorium to hear these kids, these elementary school age kids, sing that with just fervor. Like they know this, they feel this. And I think that that's so important. Sorry, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I think one thing that I know I've struggled with is, again, like, how do I stay proactive and encouraging and confident behavior when we talk about that question? I'm a human being. I'm not going to be confident all the time. Like, how do I show my child how to do this when I'm still learning how to do it myself? I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but that's something that I struggle with sometimes, where I'm just like, I'm not the best example 24/7, and I don't want them to pick up my bad habits. And I sit there and it's like, man, sometimes I see the absolute, like, they are the best of me and beyond, these kids. They are way cooler already than I will ever be at ages 4 and 6. But then there are times where I'm like, oh, am I just giving them all of my worst habits? And it's hard not to be worried, right? And it makes me think of a song called Growing Up, Salone's song. And it's by Ed Sheeran and Macklemore. And there's a part that goes, times are changing, I know. But who am I if I'm the person you become? If I'm still growing up? Know that you don't have to be perfect. Know that, again, if you're just showcasing, mirroring those habits of recognition, right? Recognizing times where you are struggling and showing them that that's okay. Walking them through how to deal with those emotions in a healthy way. That you're doing your best. I think that that's almost better, because realistically, we're not going to keep our crap together all the time. And they need to see that that's not how life is. They got to know that there will be times where they're going to struggle, but it'll be okay. It makes me think of a quote by Maya Angelou, and she says, quote, "A mother's love liberates." You are exactly who your children need to feel confident. You can unlock your child's confidence.